Liquid's Clem, very familiar matchup, especially as they played earlier today. Just like last week they played earlier that day, and the week before and the week before. They also might play later tonight. These two are absolute machines when it comes to playing StarCraft. I mean, more than I think is really maybe healthy sometimes, because I don't think you should be playing StarCraft 2 for like 12 hours, 13 hours across really weird times either, health-wise. But the passion is absolutely there, no doubt about that. I just hope that their wrists can take it. But it is a very different type of person who can do this consistently like this. I mean, I have never been one to play StarCraft a lot because I find it, you know, stressful like most other people do. And that's fine. But then there's like, you know, there's pro gamers who have done a lot of 17-hour days out of sheer passion and want to win, who eventually get broken and are like, you know what, I'll take this week off. And the amount of times these two guys ever have that, where they're like, I'll take these 2 days off, I'll take this weekend off, seems very, very low. So I really gotta commend the dedication of playing StarCraft. And the thing is that I don't think it's because they feel the obligation necessarily. I'm sure there's some type of obligation in their head, but it just seems that they actually enjoy really perfecting StarCraft. I mean, really, like, imagine you are, like, because this happens, right? If you're, like, Masters or above, you'll probably have days where you face the same person more than you would like. Especially if you play at, like, odd hours. And even if you win against them or lose against them or it's completely balanced, just getting kind of frustrated. Imagine being these two guys. Every single Open Cup finale is between you two. And it's, like, 3 times a day. And like 5 times a week or something insane. And then you also play all the other tournaments and ladder games that you do. I mean, that's actually kind of insane to think about. You think they would be tired of it, but apparently not. And I suppose it does help that they feel like perhaps they push each other to the limits. So this is the best practice that they can get between their respective races. I don't know. Or they're just entirely different beasts, entirely different people, and we'll never understand them. They've ascended to godhood in StarCraft. That also is possible. This Reaper is being very, very annoying, but we got a very typical setup for TvP. No doubt MaxPax going to go, oh, yes. Okay, Blink is on the way. Into 3-gate Blink, because that's what he does. Clem going into the 1-1-1 after the command center with the bunker. Very typical setup here. How are the new maps? You know, I've only seen 3 of the new maps, I think. This is my second Open Cup cast. And I think we see basically Ley Lines, Snowpiercer, and the gold one, thing with the gold in the name. That's like the 3 that I've seen the most of. There is the map that looks like Golden Wall, which I think we'll see in this best of 5. But I don't know. I don't know what the actual map choice was. If I don't play 12 hours a day, how am I going to get out of silver? Yeah, just playing and practicing the same thing over and over again definitely will yield different results. Clem's body will break. It's inevitable playing Terran at highest level. Either your body or your hair. Is that referring to a certain Terran who might be a caster now? Anyways. Maybe StarCraft is a lot less stressful when you win 90% of your ladder games. That's true. Alright, so the Adept is going to be able to escape. It's just getting confirmations on what it kind of already knows. Oh, no, it doesn't. Oh, tricky, 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 tricky. Which Terran is bold? Think of, oh, I can't unban you. I'm sorry. Anyways, think of a caster nowadays. So we have MaxPax, yes, going for a 3-gate. Just to confirm, he did add on only 3 gateways. He is, of course, going for the Warp Prism attack. And an Adept, the same one, has gotten into the main base to scout the trickiness that is tricked up until this point. It looked like it was a Banshee opener from Clem. That Adept just confirmed that it is not a Banshee opener. Now, this does maybe change the way that MaxPax decides how to move his Stalkers, but overall, this doesn't, change maybe too much. The 3-gate was still attempted, but it has actually already gone quite poorly. 3 Stalkers having gone down. That tank, no worse for wear, and what looks to be a Raven went for a little bit of harassment. This is probably one of the worst starts to a 3-gate I've seen from MaxPax today, for sure, but in a little bit, actually. He overcommitted to the south side and did not retreat as effectively as he expected to. I guess he just saw that there was no tank protecting that particular area, and his eyes got wider than his stomach, you know? But that is a pretty devastating loss. It wasn't just the 3 Stalkers, it was a lot of injured Stalkers as well. And he also lost a probe to the Reaper. Yep. 6 probes have gone down. The auto turret harassment continues. Yeah, so a pretty abusable area. Definitely a lot of area for that Raven to stay. Yeah. But the Raven doesn't feel like it's going to do any more damage. It is going to return home. Clem, just by that one mismaneuver... Is that a word? Well, just by that one bad maneuver... has already found himself in a pretty good place. And that can sometimes be how a Blink gateway opener goes, whether it's 3-gate or 4-gate. If you really mishandle the first Blink, that does say a lot for the next few Blink-ins, the next few minutes of the game. You can kind of tell how the game's going to go based off that first Blink-in. Well, the good news is, no, he didn't get the Raven, actually. Just kidding. Stupid Stalkers take forever to shoot. The good news is nothing. War Prism not finding any damage, nor buying any time. Raven still alive, although not very healthy. And the attack is commencing. MaxPax definitely not going to get a 4th anytime soon, although his intent was to get one. Lovely little fake Archon on the front lines, but the Raven is there. So, even without the scan, the point is, Clem's army... the AI is then able to say that's not a real Archon. So you yourself might be able to say that and then not focus fire it, fair enough. But the AI will oftentimes waste shots. So the Raven being there and just consistently seeing that makes it pretty ineffective. I like the idea, though. Looks like Clem is not eager to over-dedicate. He has been surrounded one too many times. Negating the power of the tanks and then having his army completely surrounded does make him more vulnerable to further warp-ins. So he's going to back away. The Warp Prism did once again go in, but it was also... was it killed? Oh, it was killed! Well, there you go. So now he has one less thing to worry about as he takes his 3rd CC. MaxPax is going to try and get this 4th base up, but his army is going to start to look really bad. Even with the Colossus on the way. It's only going to be 1 Colossus, no range on it. And the army of Clem has stayed intact because he made the wise maneuver to back away. Tanks are not going to be sieged for this. One of mine's not quite placed, but that's just a very big Terran army. Both of them with +1 attack. Terran army a little more microable, especially as those force fields barely not getting on the backside of the Terran army. Widow Mine number 2 killed a lot of Zealots that were already injured. And once those Zealots disappear, they suddenly make the army of the Protoss look terribly small and weak. Definitely more Zealots necessary, and here they come in the nick of time. Immortal also keeping things alive, I guess, helping to take out the tanks, helping to stop those Marauders from jumping on top of the Colossus, and this might just be altogether good enough to say that you've held. But MaxPax wanted to be on a 4th base, and that has instead been delayed, then denied, then further delayed. All while Clem's on a triple orbital with appropriate amount of defense against those possible and likely Zealot run-bys. MaxPax lives for now, and if he's alive, then he is still a threat. So even though this is a very good position for Clem, it's definitely not game over. Yeah, it's just, I guess he overmade workers by a little bit. Very, very, very small criticism. MaxPax will eventually get this 4th base up and running. Also saturated. And he will have his own little Zealot run by. in my... Oh, it's already there. There you go. Because that's what he does. And if it works out well enough, sometimes this can change the course of the game. Not this one. Definitely not this one. It certainly seems like Clem is having no issues with the ping, by the way, so every micro thing should be fine here. Ugh. Excuse me. So now that we gotten into kind of a mid to late game TvP, we can kind of talk about some of the changes for this. So, what the first? Let's talk about first. Again, no overcharge on the shield battery, which can affect, you know, defenses against drops, perhaps, or just straight up engagements, even late into the game. They can be crucial. Nice little EMP plus killing, what, 3 or 4 stalkers were they recalled out? The EMP has not been changed, but the ghost supply has been. So the ghost now costs 3 supply up from 2. This is not, you know, we're not thinking it's going to supply block any high tier Terrans, but it is literally going to make the balance of ghost to bio a different ratio. So either you sacrifice more bio to have the same number of ghosts, or you concede and have less ghosts. Less ghosts, less EMPs, less blanketed Protoss army, less backup EMPs for any of the units that weren't caught in the first wave of EMPs. You know, usually that's how it goes. Terran goes, bah, 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 and then they try and jump on top of you. If you were to, say, have backup High Templars, there wouldn't be that 6th ghost that then appears and goes, just kidding, you don't have a storm. So, you know, a lot of people are saying it's actually quite a big change, maybe even too much. But we'll see, as we're witnessing it kind of in real time. Only 1 ghost was available for this particular fight, so it wasn't too impactful. But the Vikings take out all but 1 Colossus. Disruptor is going to make an appearance, and the Disruptor is still not going to one-shot a Marauder. They have not changed that back to what it was. They're keeping the nerfed Disruptor. It does have a wider splash, but as it does not one-shot a Marauder, that's a pretty big difference. And since, you know, most of these armories are mostly Marauder. Now, it still puts the Marauder into, like, the red, I think, with the orange, maybe. No, definitely the red. Look at that. And, oh, a stim just made them literally one-shot by a probe right there. So it is still important to get those hits, but it's not quite the same. That would have been so many Marauders if that was the old Disruptor. Clem allowed to live past that to the point that he can just stay on the front lines. Actually, what might pull him back is a little bit of DT harassment, but the DT not really making up for what just happened right there. 40 supply difference still. And Clem saved most of his SCVs too. 4th Command Center is planetary, all protected with a salvageable center tower. But also a center tower that is, I mean, you look at it, and it is definitely smaller. Like, even people who haven't played StarCraft in a while might be able to tell, like, hey, that doesn't look the same that it was. It is still very useful, though. And still, you know, relatively cheap, and it can be salvaged. Disruptors, again, not getting the perfect shots, which is what kind of expect, is they don't get shots. But now if they do get a miracle shot, like they did in the first engagement, they're no longer going to kill all those Marauders. There's a chance for them to be healed up, but what is a mass amount of medevacs, 9 on the field right now. Disruptor on the backside was an accident, not on purpose. Does get shot down, as Colossus is going to be a goner. Shield to overcharge is unavailable. That Disruptor, again, not going to one-shot many of these units. And now we're talking about mostly Stalkers. Zealots coming in to try and help out. 2-2 to 1-2. However, Vikings even helping against those Zealots specifically. And this is just going to be too much. Just too much bio. I dare say that if the Disruptors did one-shot Marauders, this would have been a hold. An actual hold, not just a, for appearance's sake, hold. But, you know, it is what it is. And that is, but at the end of the day, he was in a rough position after that 3-gate. Huh? Where do you even find replays from the PTR? It's the final every week, multiple times a week. I'm glad they're still having fun. And I'm not saying I'm not having fun. I mean, I do think everyone would appreciate it if there were more top-tier professionals. But they do still give really entertaining games. It's just I'm more amazed that as players, they continue to seemingly have fun. But it would be nice if we had a deeper line of professional players, so that, you know, the top tier players were rare to see. So it was really exciting when you saw them in offline tournaments. I mean, you think about back in the day how it was, and it was very, very different. Bottom left, MaxPax. Upper right and up a game. It is Clem. Yeah, these two face off against each other in the finals every week, multiple times a week. That is because they're the most insistent on playing all these open cups. First of all, there are other players who could contest them. They just don't play as often or at all, like Cyril. But it's also because they're, you know, some of the best players. So, of course, they're going to make it to the finals. But back in the day, I mean, I remember casting IEM qualifiers where, you know, Korean only IEM qualifier, where the bracket was still like 150 people. And as early as the round of 128, you already were finding some pretty decent matchups. And by the round of 64, you were getting like Flash versus Jaedong in some of those post-swap IEMs. So it was pretty cool. And then on top of that, you had a lot more, I think, smaller open cups that were then dominated by people you wouldn't know if you watched only international tournaments. The kind of ladder heroes, if you will, but they're like small cup ladder heroes. I feel like that kind of started to change with Legacy of the Void. Beyond, in particular, would play anything and everything, including a $5 open cup. And that did rub people the wrong way, actually, a little bit. After a while. But now it's just, these are the only tournaments that are happening, first of all, especially without any news on the open cups from ESL or from tournaments from ESL. But then second of all, I mean, the depth of our player roster for StarCraft is, it's a little low. So it's very difficult also to encourage anyone to shine above the rest when the rest are just so solidified in the top 4, top 8 position. The most recent change up to that dynamic was indeed MaxPax. Kind of Trigger as well, but MaxPax the most because he now holds the title as the #1 Protoss outside of offline tournaments. But that was this mix-up happened 3 or 4 years ago when we were talking about this kid who seemed to be doing pretty cool things and who seemed to be able to take off maps. Now he's winning series and all that. You can only hope that something like a multi-year deal would change that. But it is going to be very difficult to overcome the top players. And then it's also going to be very, I think, difficult to say goodbye to a lot of the top players who will eventually retire, and it's going to be very sad. I'm already having a tough time letting Zest go, who has confirmed he's not going to come back to StarCraft. That already hit me in my gut, so not looking forward to the rest of the players whenever it does happen. All right, we got a 1-1-1 coming out from Clem as expected. It is a factory expand, so he's got a couple of early game units that MaxPax is in a little trouble against, but the Adept will be able to get away. It's going to be a Stargate opener this time from MaxPax, not a Blink opener. This is what I think a lot of Protosses are experimenting with, particularly for the Oracle and the Recharge. The Oracle having so much more, 100 more energy right off the bat. Well, that's Adept's annoying. Is a lot. That is so many stasis traps. That's so much more pulsar beam. That's 2 spells instead of just the 1. And so people have been experimenting with that a fair amount, especially Estrella and stasis traps. It looks like MaxPax isn't so much looking forward to experiment with the Oracle, although he has already done so. He already has shown its power in PvP, recharging that. But rather, he's going into a classic straight to Phoenix Colossus style of play. And he is actually charging up the Phoenix, so this one's going to have multiple Graviton beams. Which is actually pretty important. I mean, as far as just crowd controlling goes, you probably keep them in the same Graviton beam. But if you want to try and get them to not shoot, for instance, and micro very intensely that way, then you're going to want multiple Graviton beams. or just in this case, actually being able to chase every unit down with some of the initial units. Unfortunately, that was once again a bit of a bait that I also got baited by. I'm pretty good at this. Look over here while the real action is over there. But it looks like the reaction time of MaxPax was certainly good enough. He has saved almost all of his probes, all of his Phoenix, and all of his units. And the Adept that died was an incredible nuisance while it was still alive. Yeah, Mike, I just went to, you can right-click show in folder on the replay list, but I also have a shortcut to my multiplayer folder because that's just been convenient for me over the years. And I was like, wait a minute, is it in the same account, the PTR, or no? And it was in the same account as the live ladder games. MaxPax is still the most entertaining player as far as general, I don't know, entertainment and general apprehension, I guess. Like, you want to know what's going to happen with this guy. So when he does make an offline appearance, and I think it is a when, not an if at this point, it'd be a big deal. So we got Clem with a little bit of a move out here. Now, this is a very specific anti-Phoenix move out. One that is designed with a lot of anti-air in mind. It's also very microable. Don't forget those Cyclones popping out of the tech lab now once more, also with an incredible range on the lock-on. So, not as many of them, perhaps, but they do have a lot of range. Nice pickup on the medevac right there, but also good force fields here from MaxPax that he can then recharge. And he might actually look to do that, or he might use it for a shield battery. Well, yeah, first we'd have to have announcements of an offline tournament, but if that happens, I think MaxPax more and more, drip feeding the well maybes, or maybe this time, or I was planning on going, but then this happened. He is getting closer to making the decision every single time. And we can only guess as to why he doesn't ultimately go, but if his family's the issue as he gets older, let's be real, the more naturally rebellious he would have to get if they're the ones constraining him. It would just make sense that he would eventually, be like, no, I'm going. Anyways, we don't actually know why he doesn't go. I'm just throwing out ideas. But it does seem like every single time he's asked, he gets a little bit closer to actually going. So that was a cute little scuffle right there with the Phoenix, actually. Pretty important, really. 2 medevacs went down a Phoenix, and the Phoenix took no damage in return, or no kills anyway. And that's really quite good. Clem probably beating himself up quite a bit about letting that happen. And he was on the map perhaps a little bit too carefree against this many Phoenix that also have a decent amount of energy. So that might have been the way it was supposed to go. He's almost baiting the Phoenix to go over his 3rd CC. Oh, is it going to work? No, there's an observer right there. He thinks it's going to work, and then the Widow Mines just get picked up as well. Oh, MaxPax all over this plan. All over it. Clem, not realizing an observer was just chilling. He's now lost a lot of Widow Mines, a decent number of Marines, a handful of SCVs. And has only lost 1 Phoenix in turn. MaxPax with some really, really top-tier control here. And might have been also using recharge for more Phoenix energy, I guess. He also could have been using it for Chrono Boost, because it's 50 energy for 100 energy, so might have been supercharging his macro. It is a very... Oh, okay, that one just looked like it wasn't part of the control group. It is a very difficult spell to keep track of. In the heat of a moment, when you're eyeing the Sentry energy for a force field, then you can see it. Or the Phoenix energy, or the High Templar energy. Then you can see it. But if you're looking anywhere else, or you're looking at the macro implications of the recharge, it's just terribly difficult to keep track of. You can just go by feeling, perhaps, which is like, wow, this Protoss feels like he has a lot more probes than usual. I think the issue of ping has been resolved for Clem, so he's fine. MaxPax continuing to expand in a vertical fashion up to the 4th base of Snowpiercer. I guess there really aren't that many bases on Snowpiercer. They you get your 3 and that's pretty standard, but your 4th is a fair distance away, either way that you go. And there's not really a lot of shared or combative expansions where you both are going to be kind of vying for the same location. So that creates a pretty split map. and is generally a little bit worse for Terran, who kind of want to push alongside their expansions. Anyways, we got a push from the Protoss. Clem does have +1 attack, but so does the Protoss. A couple of Cyclones going on the backside, actually contributing a damn decent amount, honestly. And this might have been a good enough first engagement, but 3 Colossus still alive, 2 Archons as well. EMP is now available. Those Archons do get EMP'd, but are still kind of buff. And the 3 Colossus just looking untouchable. 4 Vikings, not quite enough to take care of them. And this is looking a little difficult as Clem is forced to stim over and over and over again. His medevac's not having the time to heal up his army. SCV is starting to go down. Clem is going to have to take the engagement, but it might not be the ideal one. He's just been so injured all over the place. Medevac's now even chasing after SCVs when they should be focusing on the front lines, trying to heal up the army, so at the very least, he can try and recover once this battle is done. But perhaps this battle will not be finished. Clem falls in game 2. MaxPax with a steady push. I was actually very, very confident of him. I was looking at supply the entire time, and the supplies were very, very similar to the very last second. But he noticed how much the army was forced to be balled up and stim and run away and take damage, and he just felt confident staying in place. Can you do that? Target another Nexus? I'm pretty sure they specifically stated you could do that when they first were explaining how recharge could be good. They were even on upgrades, yeah. Oops. Not the correct mod. Any hot takes? No. Because they're not hot. I mean, they're the same impassioned takes that the community has. Yeah, it's 8 range. Very diplomatic answer. I don't think it's diplomatic. It's just, it's really the case that I have no unique opinions. Most of the community holds the same opinions as me. I guess maybe the most hot take that I have is that I actually like Shield Body Overcharge. I think it actually makes exciting games. And I'm not excited for Recharge. And Disruptor should one-shot Roaches and Marauders. But even then, I don't think it's a very, very controversial. A lot of people seem to think the same thing. They acknowledge that I can acknowledge Disruptors are obnoxious when they do get that shot that kills 30 supply because you weren't paying attention. But I also can acknowledge how in the lower leagues, Disruptors can be hard to use. They lose so many Disruptors by not paying attention to their own army. There's ways to counteract, with Liberators, the Disruptor problem. It creates great entertainment as far as watching video games go. That you have something that can cause this big damage or this big swing, the Desperate Disruptor that kills 20 Roaches on the defense of the all-in. I think that's actually really cool. So, but I acknowledge that people find it frustrating. In the bottom right of Whispers of Gold, this is the other one that I just see all the time. It is Clem. Top left is MaxPax, and now it is tied up 1-1. And seriously, MaxPax, sometimes Protoss doesn't get a lot of credit for really good play. That's been kind of their curse for the entirety of StarCraft, because a lot of their good things are either they look very cheesy and gimmicky, or they just don't look very fancy. So, watching someone just play perfect macro and defend perfectly is only usually exciting if the other guy is attacking relentlessly. And then you kind of give the reason that was fun to the attacker more than the defender. But MaxPax, he does a lot of subtle things that really do make him one of the best Protosses in the world. And sort of subtle, it's probe micro though, is the confidence that was displayed in that last game. I would say a lot of Protosses with the same situation, eventually their army kind of gets sliced down to a mostly Colossus-dependent army. Maybe an Immortal, maybe a couple Stalkers and Sentries, but their Warp Prism's no longer there. They don't have quick reinforcements. And they'll leave at that point. And the Terran player can go, oh, thank God, I can finally get my Concave, I can finally heal up, I can get my Wood of Mines reburrowed. And then things kind of settle. And MaxPax, the last few series I've seen from him versus Terran, has really displayed a knowledge of that push that does seem to surpass a lot of other Protosses, like when to stay, when to push, when to leave. It's not nearly as flashy as a hero blink forward when he realizes he has just enough Stalkers to win out the battle, but it's kind of the same thing. And it's like one or two extra Marauders in the Terran's army, and you've definitely incorrectly evaluated the situation. But it's almost perfect when MaxPax actually pushes. Speaking of pushes, this Zealot's been a nuisance. Fortunately, is taken out, but still caused some problems. An SCV and a Marine both dead here. Other Marine now one-shot from the Adept. The Reaper is going to have to play it very carefully, as obviously more Adepts, more pressure is on the way. I guess it's a shorter map. I've not looked at the rush distances of the new maps as of yet. I don't know if they're available. But this does look like a shorter map. So this is probably why MaxPax has done this. Sometimes we would also see Protoss players put a forward gateway to make it an extra 5 seconds faster, but I haven't seen that in a while. This is just a very oh my god. No. 1 health. 1 and 3 health. Oh, I would be so tilted right now. Oh, you have no idea. I would have tapped out of that game. Okay, well now he's overcommitting, I think. Now he's too Gosu. Now he's he's too fancy for his own good now. Still, what a series of events that was. What a roller coaster. Overall, what is the resource trade here? A little favorable for the Terran. Yep, for sure, the Terran. MaxPax probably didn't miss a beat on the macro. Both of them probably didn't miss too many beats, although Clem does look like he missed a half a beat. Yep, supply blocked for a little bit. But now he has that cooldown supply that then fully heals up his supply depot. Hey! Wood of Mine drop could be way more important. Holy shit, that was scary. Oh my god, that almost got all the probes. Now it only just gets 1, and then the lost mining time. Pretty considerable. The medevac should be able to escape. It should escape. And just more lost mining time. It is a 4-gate, ladies and gentlemen. Count them. 4 gateways. Didn't they remove the fully heal from supply drop? Oh, did they? Damn it. I wanted to make fun of it more. But they might have. You might be right. It was completely useless in my opinion. Anywho. We got the 4-gate. Full on 4-gate. This is very dedicated, and it's going to have that 1 extra Stalker that can be actually quite a big deal, especially if the first few waves of Stalker attacks go well and they are retained. And suddenly, with 4 different Warpings, that's 4 extra Stalkers, that's 4 more to one-shot on SCV, or 4 more to actually get the one-shot on the tank, or whatever it is. Right now, Clem has a pretty solid setup. He is totally prepared. He knows that it's an actual 4-gate, so he is prepared with the bunker and the SCVs. The second bunker was killed, though. Good eye from MaxPax, realizing the SCVs would then have awkwardly tried to change their priority, their target, so he just went after the second bunker. Now, this might not still be the plan here. Lots of Stalkers going down. The retreat option not as safe as desired. How many Stalkers did go down? 5. That's a lot with the 4-gate. Banshee's also making an appearance, means that they can arrive on this side of the map. Sorry, Banshee singular. What an interesting Banshee. I guess he got a Raven and then thought, I really am going to need more firepower. I can't use the starport for anything else. So I'm going to get a Banshee. And fair enough, I suppose, yeah. A Banshee that is not immediately targeted does have some good DPS. But it is a glass cannon. Observer not going to get that free information in the main base. MaxPax headed towards the natural anyways. Just jumps right on top of that tank. The bunkers, though, are still alive. The auto turret here helping out. And this will not be a break. And that was the type of blink forward that really screamed, I need to win. And he absolutely does not. Leaves battered and bruised. Only 5 stalkers to survive. 16 total. No problem, Archimedes. And that is it. GG Clem with a 2-1 lead now. It was a 2-hour Swarm host game and never watched again. Oh no. That's very unfortunate. Swarm hosts were not the best times, that's for sure. In the bottom left now of Hecate, as we've moved over from the PTR to the live edition of StarCraft, it is Clem. And on the top right, it is MaxPax. The PTR does not have all of the maps available. Wait, no, sorry, reverse that. The PTR is giving Clem some bad ping. The live version of StarCraft does not have all the maps available. So, basically, we did both. Hecate was an old ladder map, so of course it's going to be available on StarCraft. You then add the mod, extension mod to it for the patch, and then you got yourselves a even better PTR version, actually, because this is where the Cyclone is also fixed. But most importantly, Clem doesn't have obscenely high ping. So it works out. I don't know what the 5th map is, but MaxPax said that we could play Europe on the 4th and 5th map if needed. So hopefully that works out. Swarm hosts were a bad time. What was the best time of StarCraft? Well, it is really difficult to argue that Wings of Liberty wasn't the best time for StarCraft. It's when everyone was watching StarCraft. It was the biggest and not exactly only esport, but for its size and its international presence, it was the biggest. You had the most players, and you had the most stupidity, which is fun to watch because no one knew how to play. What else? Like, it's hard to argue against that. For me, I really also enjoyed the beginning of Legacy of the Void. It had the same amount of stupidity with the attempted abuse of the new units, and no one really knew exactly how it played. And it still had a really big pro player base and a lot of tournaments, and it was fun. But, yeah. Was StarCraft 2 the best balance patch? No, once Brood Infestor took over, it was pretty downhill. Just slid right into the Swarm host, which was like, you thought you made it to the bottom of the hill, and then you started your way onto like a highway, and you're like, oh god, this is how I die. But yeah, there's a lot of good feelings for the beginning of StarCraft 2. And, you know, you combine that with everyone's nostalgia and natural preference for some of the younger years of their life when things were better. And you got yourself something that can never be beaten, which I found at times frustrating, but it's mostly settled down at this point. Fighting the past can be a struggle, StarCraft included, but I feel like most people have calmed down. Good save on the Adepts, and then Clem overextended a wee bit with that Reaper. Wanted the first Adept kill, didn't realize the second was already there. Hecate was a very, very, very played out, balanced map as far as I remember. It was a map where, you know, I'm actually thinking of a couple of Muta games, weirdly enough. I don't know why. But I feel like maybe Zerg had some trouble on it, maybe. Oh, it's been a long time. Maybe they were good on it. Either way. I think it was, you know, it was really well liked, but I still am surprised that it was added to this map pool. It's like, Hecate? Really? No weirder or more fun ones? Okay. Add Fruitland. Add Fruitland, you cowards! Stargate opener from MaxPax as he goes into not a robotics bay. Nuh-uh. He did showcase Phoenix Colossus in one game today. This time around, he goes Oracle into Twilight Council. So this is the less played option nowadays. Uh-oh, Oracle did overstay its welcome. How many SCVs did it kill? So we don't have game heart, so sorry, but that was actually a lot of damage. 8 SCVs did go down. The Oracle got charged up and then was able to use Pulsar Beam till its very end. It maybe could have left, but the Oracle doesn't have to deal again with that Cyclone with the obscenely long range. So it's like if you're caught by the Cyclone, the Oracle dies 9 times out of 10. So there's also something to be said that it probably should have just stuck the landing. 8 SCV is pretty good for an Oracle. Added 1 Phoenix, decided not to. I don't know what that was about, but decides that the money is best spent elsewhere. He is going to have to defend on the 3rd base without an overcharge. Shield battery will be there, and that might be enough. The Cyclone double. Okay, Cyclone and a tank. Tank is going to try to be focus fire, but it might be too late, actually. Oh, no. Medevac does get shot down, so it's going to really decrease the amount of micro. And also decrease a little bit of the staying power, as the Marines will actually get killed. But that tank having an anchor on this push so early on in the game is really quite nasty. The best news is that this is not close enough to the shield battery. But that might also be going down. 2nd shield battery is being replaced, under halfway done, however, and there's just not that many stalkers on the field. The amounts of stalkers might be good enough now, actually. Okay, good back attack on the stalkers right there. Very nicely done. Stalkers still being lost in the trade, however, especially with that Cyclone lock-on. And the tank number 2 is going to secure the retreat, I would suspect. But this was all over the place, wasn't it? 5 stalkers went down, but 16 Marines and a tank and a medevac and a Cyclone. This might be turning over a little bit to favor MaxPax as he does chase down the tank, the Viking, the rest of the Marines, and this time does not trade on any stalkers for it. Overall, you can see Clem has lost out in the resources trade. He was not able to fully retreat. There was no safe way to do that with Blink Stalkers. I was going to say that it might have hit just before the right amount of production could kick in. And then it can be a really, really disappointing way to end a game. You know that if you just had 10 more seconds, or if you had killed the tank, or if the shield battery was in a more secure place, that it would have been fine and the game would have continued. Fortunately for MaxPax, he manages to avoid that snowball effect and does manage to even push back and kind of recover the losses to a degree. 4th base is on the way. Lickety splits. We are on a lower gas style, really emphasizing the Zealots for now. It is 4 gases in total, so we are having some soccer production, obviously, upgrades, as well as the eventual transition to Colossus. First, a lot of Zealots. And those Zealots can be used either as forms of actual engagements, but also for run-bys. And the Colossus count could be scary. Clem does have 2 tanks, despite losing early tanks. Somebody did lose 2. It's going to help him against any counter Colossus pushes, should they happen, but not if they get jumped on by Zealots. Stalkers were definitely in the wrong place. Didn't realize tanks are already sieged up. Now they are a little less likely to stall out this push. They keep going the wrong direction every which way. Run, you fools! Link will be available again very soon. Trying to get every last little bit from these stalkers, but really they're there to mostly scout or distract. I was distracted. War Prism goes in, War Prism goes out. Not going to get too many SCVs by the looks of things. I got to double check though. 14 SCVs have been killed, so that's more than I last checked. So I guess they did kill SCVs. Probably focus firing as the army comes to deal with them. They still are a little tanky, even without an armor upgrade, so they can at least slice down 1 or 2 more SCVs. War Prism lives, which is really the best thing for the Protoss, worst thing for the Terran. Such a thorn in your side, something you always have to worry about. And it's going to give MaxPax a lot of control over the map and a lot of time to get to his preferred vision of his army. Stalkers are finally going to be caught, though. Good focus fire from Clem to get a further retreating Stalker kill before the weakened one. But here it is. Here's the Protoss army that has been built up over the last couple of minutes. Clem actually not paying attention initially. Forced to kind of stick to it. Retreating would have also been pretty bad. But it did look like he wasn't paying attention. The Zealots perhaps hitting at that exact right time, decimating the economy. 29 SCVs have now gone down. He must have transferred workers as the Zealots came in. They sliced and diced real quick. MaxPax definitely looking to be in charge for game number 4. And this is going to be perhaps Clem's last stand. If he loses the army here, he will be out of this game. And he knows it. He's going to pick up in the main base. No, the Stalkers are waiting. No! Oh, the unload will happen, but it's a almost half-hearted load. I guess Stalkers will be traded out here. That actually ended up not being too bad as far as a direct trade. Zealot Warplanes are slow as well. That's very awkward. And because MaxPax thought the army was going to be taken care of with the Stalker and Zealot Warplane, the rest of his army is quite late to this. This actually was a pretty big mistake. One of those mistakes that didn't seem too big. It actually didn't even seem like a mistake at first, because the Stalkers were there. But then just the right amount of things happened that Clem is able to take a good trade, get positioned back on the 4th base next, is going to kill that, grab a couple of Zealots, and be able to skedaddle. No medevacs here, so skedaddling would probably be the better option. Does miss control as he's focusing on the drop over to that 3rd base now, and MaxPax still ahead on supply, is still in a good position, but Clem is starting to really fight back. He has also replaced all the workers that were lost, so he's back up to 3-base saturation, but that was supposed to go into a 4th base potentially at this time, so keep that in mind. And these units do not have a safe retreat option. They will be gunned down eventually. Every charge, every blink forward, every Marauder lost is one that's not going to be on the defense for the final push. Clem still going to town with the medevac drop, but it can only do so much damage now. 1 medevac and 2 Marauders in a dream. I mean, good lord, though. Jesus. 30 SCVs have been killed, 26 probes, and that's probably, you know, like 5 probes every time the medevac's landed, but it is added up here. It seems like Clem is still going to tap out, and he's still right to do so. He's down by 20 army supply. And he does not have enough army to defend the inevitable counterattack. He also had no medevacs, much less any Vikings. So, you know, he might have had 40 supply, but it was of bare bones tier 1 bio units. We're on El Dorado for the last map of this best of 5. Bottom right, it is Clem. Bottom left, it is MaxPax. Yes, both bases are on the bottom. A little golden wall throwback. I don't know if the map maker intended for that and is glad we're bringing it up, or had no intentions for us to compare it to Golden Wall and is really frustrated when we do. But map makers should go back in their holding cell and stay there. I'm just kidding. I love you, map makers. You're the unsung heroes of StarCraft. But I think that's the first thing anyone thinks of when it's a, you know, U-shaped map with the bottom side of the map being cut off by mineral patches, creating a situation where you can either expand to the south and play out the south, or expand to the north and play out the north. So, you know, if you take your 3rd base here, and then your opponent also takes a 3rd base here, then you have a real close, very knife fight in a phone booth type situation going on. But then again, you go out to the 3rd base way over here, and they take the 3rd base way over there, and then you have the opposite of a knife fight in a phone booth. You have a knife fight in a stadium or something. It's not nearly as harsh. And depending on what, you know, your race or your playstyle is, one is preferable to the other. And there's also the opportunity for one person to take a 3rd base down here, and then another one to take 3rd base over there, and then you're like, I don't actually know how to push. I don't even know what to do. Which also sometimes happens. Seems like MaxPax has been really insistent with this probe against Terrans, and so almost every Terran I've seen so far today has made sure to bring down 2 SCVs almost immediately, so they're not going to get out-harassed. Oh, we lost the cat. Sorry, guys. He has better things to do. I don't know. He's looking at himself in the reflection of my my frame. So that's the better thing he has to do. Either way, slice the expansion process. It does mean that there's a little bit more thought process that goes into expanding rather than just the typical triangle versus vertical. I mean, it still is triangle versus vertical, but there's a little more to it. Obviously, you got this kind of close distance by the air, so there might be more intent on Protoss to go for Phoenix or for Terrans to really, really push the Wood of Mine drop issue. I think these are all 10 minerals, so two worker trips per patch. It also creates some type of like emergency third base that you kind of hope that people don't check for. We actually already saw that. It's going to be a at least 3 gate. MaxPax very rarely goes 2 gate third nexus. So I don't know if that is possible. Oh! Oh! Someone called for a DT rush earlier today. Here you have it. DT is coming on out. Forgot that was an option, but that is something that MaxPax throws out once a tournament at least. Clem has been opting for some Raven openers, though. Which doesn't totally negate the power of a DT rush, but depending on the exact circumstances, where the DTs are warped in and how fast a Raven has gotten in general, like, you know, it can. In this case, I don't see the Raven negating the Dark Shrine, if it even comes out. It doesn't look like it's still the plan, but the Dark Shrine should be able to get a couple of swipes in before the Raven really starts to cover all the bases. Guess another problem, right? Literally covering 2 bases with only 1 unit. I think the real problem is that this Marine drop with a Widow Mine is going to 100% scout the Dark Shrine. That's actually the worst thing about it. Now that it's scouted, the Raven is going to much easier be in position. And then you're going to have maybe a missile turret or a scan saved up at the very least, right? This is kind of getting weird, though. So a Stalker died, Probes died, Marine's still going, but then Adepts got into the main and natural of the Terran, really messed up the mining over there. Nonetheless, MaxPax still dealing with a Marine drop, has yet to actually warp in DTs. Only 1 being warped in right now. It goes for the main base. The Raven is there, already grabbing 4 SCVs, though I believe that 3 or 4. 7 SVs have gone down in total. 17 probes. Oh my god. This Marine drop has done so much damage. It kills the remaining Stalker. That's it. That is it. What a finale. And none of the things I was talking about. They didn't even get to a third base. None of the things I was talking about was important. That was all 2-base play. Wow. Did the Widow Mine drop just kill way more probes, or was it actually the Marines? No, I only killed 3 probes. Okay. Yeah, no, it was just the Marines. They kept on going, man. Then it was 7, then it was 12. That's so annoying. They just have such limited production. They're trying to warp in offensively with pretty expensive units, I guess. Protoss in general, expensive units. While also trying to warp in defensively. And with a medevac, it really can be very easy to underestimate how long the Marines can stick around. Oh, yeah, yeah. GG's. Clem will take this series. And, I don't think we saw too many new patch moments there. But, yeah, the Cyclone definitely got some moments to shine.